I've been hosting on Airbnb or co-hosting or investing for the better part of a decade now. I got started when I had absolutely no money. In fact, when I first got started, I was in pretty crushing debt. And now I've built up to a portfolio of properties I own that generate consistent cash flow so that I never really need to work a consistent day job ever again. In this video, I'm going to share with you my entire journey, start to finish, exactly what strategies I used, how I got here, and what I recommend for new people starting out so that you can learn from my process, you can learn from my experience. And if you're interested in learning about in greater detail any of these different strategies that I've learned and deployed throughout the years, then I highly recommend you check out the links in the description down below. Most specifically, BNB Tribe. It's a really, really great entry point. It's a community that we just launched not too long ago that is specifically for anyone, a co-host, a host, an investor, a vacation home owner, or anyone that's aspiring, wanting to get started. If you want to join a community of other like-minded folks who are successful and getting started and learning about Airbnb and short-term rentals, and you want to get access to some incredible training that, quite frankly, other people out here charge lots more money than what we're charging for in here, and you want to get access to all kinds of different deals and perks and discounts, expert interviews, community calls, everything, then check out BNB Tribe. It is really, really affordable. We try to make it as accessible as possible so that we could guarantee the highest amount of value possible for everyone inside. So if you want to check that out, we've also got additional trainings that are linked in the description down below that go into detail about some of the different strategies that I've used. So you can check those out as well. But let's go ahead and dive right into it. Oh, actually, before I get started, give this video a thumbs up if at any point you find it very valuable to you, because it really does help me out with growing the channel. I'll start at the very beginning. When I first got started with Airbnb, it was right after a failed business venture that left me about $30,000 in debt. Now, I'll touch on that briefly here. It was basically a business where I was having watches manufactured and I was trying to then resell them, basically drop ship them. Drop shipping wasn't as popular back then, so I didn't really call it that, but that's essentially what I was doing. And long story short, I had no idea what I was doing, made a whole bunch of mistakes, and ended up in a lot of debt. Now, at that point, I kind of had a decision to make. Did I want to go and get some 9-to-5 and start slowly chipping away at this debt? Or did I want to try my hand at starting a business again? But if I tried to start a business again, it would have to be a business that I could start without any money. So that was a bit of a tall order because most businesses tend to take a little bit of money to get started. And so I was left with this kind of conundrum, but I was young and quite frankly, I was a little bit foolish back then. And so I really, really wanted to be an entrepreneur. I really wanted to run my own business and do my own thing and have all the freedom and lifestyle that was associated with that. Now, I will warn that it doesn't necessarily play out exactly like that, especially in the early days. Now I'm fortunate enough that I am in a place where I have a lot more freedom and lifestyle and financial independence. But back then, starting a business is definitely not for the faint of heart when you're first getting started. So I decided that I was going to do it. And I actually had a friend of mine who was working with another company over in Asia, and they were basically helping investors from Asia to purchase properties over in North America and then capitalize on those as well as they could. And so as part of that, they were actually helping them to connect those property owners with short-term rental property managers. So my buddy, Sam was his name, he basically was reaching out to these different property management companies. He got talking to them and he started realizing, well, heck, there's some people that are not, any smarter than us, and they're making really good money doing this. They're basically just hosting other people's properties, doing something called co-hosting or property management, and they're doing it in exchange for a percentage of the overall revenue. So he thought, well, this is a business that we could start up. So, hey, James, why don't you go back to Canada? I was traveling around the country, around the world. I was actually over in Asia at the time. And so he said, why don't you go back to Canada over the Christmas break, see if you can get some property owners signed on board. If not, all good, go back to your traveling, go back to your backpacking. At that time I was backpacking to just kind of run away from all my financial problems. Not really something I would recommend to most people. But he said, hey, if you succeed, great, we can start this business up. If it gets successful enough, I'll actually come back over to North America from where I am over in Asia, and we can grow this business together. And if it doesn't, if it falls flat on its face, if you're not able to get any properties, then hey, all good. We'll just, call it a loss and you can go back to your traveling. So I thought, well, heck, I'm already going back home for the holidays anyway. Why don't I go and try my luck? And what we decided to do at that point was we decided to basically just start pitching people on co-hosting. And we also were going to combine in a little bit of rental arbitrage. So that came a little bit later. So initially I started pitching people on this model of co-hosting of, hey, I will, manage your property for you in exchange for a percentage of the revenue. And the very first client that I ever got signed on board with us was actually a connection that I had, someone in my network. And his situation was that he had a condo right in downtown Toronto that he would come to during the week. But on weekends, he went out to his actual property, his actual home, north of the city. And so on the weekends, this property would sit vacant. And he thought, well, heck, if you guys can rent it for me on the weekends, I'm happy to give you a percentage of the revenue, and you can just take care of it for me, and hopefully it'll pay off a lot of the rent costs associated with having that property. And so we were actually able to do that. It rented out really, really well, and it was able to completely offset and cover his costs, and we made some really great money doing that. Now, on that time horizon there as well, I also went and I actually, in that time back, I really hit the ground running, reached out to probably 50, 60, 70 different property owners through whether it was Kijiji or direct through Airbnb back in the day or all these different things. I tried everything and really, really gave it a go. I managed to line up meetings with I think about 5 or 6 or 7 property owners, and I managed to sign, I think it was like 4 or 5 or 6 of them on under management. So it actually went really, really well. And the cool thing was I did it without really any track record, any experience, anything to show for it. I just really understood what their challenges are, what their pain points were, and offered a really good solution and built a lot of trust with those property owners. I was very transparent about the fact that I was just starting this up and that I was going to be a new business, and they would just really need to trust me that I was going to do a great job. Now, looking back, I'm very, very grateful that those property owners did trust me, but I'm not sure that I would do the same if I were in their situation. So it's definitely better if you're just getting started to learn and develop. And now there's so much knowledge out there that there just didn't exist 10 years ago about how to do all this stuff, how to be more efficient with it. But obviously, I'm very grateful that I was able to get started the way that I was. Now, so that basically got me started into co-hosting. But then because now I was running this business, I said, okay, well, it went well enough that I've got to stay here. I'm not going to go back to my traveling around. This is an actual legitimate business that's going to be making us cash flow. It's going to help me to get out of debt. I'm going to be able to grow it. I said, well, I need to find a place in Toronto to live. And if anyone knows anything about Toronto, it's not an overly inexpensive place to live. It's not very affordable, right? It's pretty expensive. And I, again, at that time, this was really, really early on, right? I hadn't even been managing these properties yet. I just got them signed on. They weren't launched and ready and going. And so I still had all this debt. So I thought, okay, how can I do this? Well, naturally, rental arbitrage, kind of house hacking type of strategy came to my mind. I thought, well, hey, I can go and rent a place that's 2 or 3 bedrooms. It's really great because then when Sam moves back, he can just move into the spare bedroom. And in the meantime, I'll just rent the other bedrooms out on Airbnb. And at the time, again, I don't really recommend this. I actually also in the living room put a pull-out couch and just had a pull-out couch listed on Airbnb as well as the other 2 bedrooms. And then I slept in the 1 bedroom. Now, that wasn't ideal because it kind of turned the place into a hostel where new people that were checking in on Airbnb would go into the bedroom and they'd be like, well, who's this random person sleeping on the couch in the living room? So that wasn't that great, but it was back when you could kind of get away with that stuff on Airbnb. And I charged less than what the hostels were charging. So it was like the cheapest place to stay in town. And I managed to make enough. We were just so consistently booked that all 3 of those places running full capacity, I fully covered all of my rent expense and then some. I was actually able to pay for all my groceries as well with the money that came in from that. So that was really, really nice. It allowed me to have a place in the city to stay so I could conveniently get to all my meetings with clients and everything else like that without having to pay an arm and a leg for rent. So that was really cool. And then Sam later on did actually come back to Toronto and help me grow the business, and he just moved right in there. We actually ended up with that landlord, we picked up another property that he let us do co-hosting with. And then that's probably right around the time that we found some property owners that weren't super open to the idea of co-hosting because they had other investors that they had purchased the property with, and they really needed a solid, like consistent monthly income in order to go and show the investors that they, were deserving of their confidence. So they said, well, no, we won't do co-hosting with you, but if you want to rent the properties from us and then flip them onto Airbnb, you're welcome to do that. And this was our first time trying this strategy out. We decided to do that, and it actually ended up working out really, really well. Now, again, I don't recommend this strategy because we actually, looking back, got very, very lucky with that deal. This is a property that we expected would bring in $3,000 or $4,000 a month. And so we ended up paying, I think it was like $2,800 or $3,000 a month in rent. And so it really wasn't going to pencil out to be that good. But lo and behold, just because of the uniqueness of that property and where it was located, there's a combination of things that we didn't really think about early on that just ended up working out in our favor. We ended up averaging, I think, about $6,000 or $7,000 a month with that property. So it was a total cash cow for us. And we started doing that. We went, okay, great. Let's just keep doing this. It's making us so much money doing this. And we went and we picked up more properties using rental arbitrage. But then obviously not all of them went that well. Now, it's not that they lost money. We actually were fortunate enough that they all made money. But the problem was now we were spending all of our cash to get that next property, to rent it, to furnish it, pay the security deposit, all that stuff. And it was a lot more volatile. There's a lot more up and down. There was a risk of losing money. And we knew that if the landlord told us that they wouldn't renew our lease or didn't want us to keep renting the property, or if the city passed any regulation, anything like that, then suddenly we would be kind of high and dry. We'd be at a loss because now we'd been investing all this cash to grow the business, but we wouldn't have anything to show for it if things took a turn for the worse or if it didn't get booked, things like that. So based on that, we decided to stop growing the rental arbitrage side unless we found like real unicorn properties that were an absolute knock out of the park. And we only ever ended up finding one more of those that went really, really, really well because they are few and far in between and hard to find. We focused fully on the co-hosting model. We just grew the co-hosting model and actually grew it to the point where we had at the peak of it about 35 properties that we were managing. It was doing really well. The business was cash flowing really well. And then we were still doing like this kind of rent hacking thing where we had people staying with us, sleeping on our couches. I actually met a really, really close, now kind of like longtime friend through doing that. So that was really cool. But it got to be a lot. It was a lot of work. And at that time, actually, that same friend I just mentioned, he stayed on one of our couches. And he was actually one of the guys sleeping on the couch when we were like just renting out the cheapest place to stay. And he opened my eyes to this idea of the whole like online education space. I had never really been exposed to online business or online education, but he was from New Zealand and he told me about this guy named Sam Ovens who had this like training program to teach people how to run online consulting businesses. And so I thought, okay, well then I have some knowledge here that I've gained through doing all of this. And my very first foray into it was I decided to launch this course called How to Live Rent Free. And the goal was that I was going to teach people how to live rent free, doing the same kind of house hacking that I had done. That completely flopped. No one really cared enough to buy that. And the people that wanted to live rent free, those were people that didn't really have money to pay for coaching, things like that. So that didn't work out. And then I decided that I was going to try to teach property management companies how to install the right systems into their business to be able to grow and run operations well. Because there's a fair bit to it. And I also, had to learn quite a bit. I came from a business background of studying and actually running a kind of franchise style business that was highly systemized. So we had actually done a pretty good job of setting up all the business systems. And so I started just dialing out to property management companies, cold calling, and no one really wanted to invest the money into working with me until I spoke with this. Are you a brand new or experienced Airbnb host, co-host, or investor who wants to host as successfully, as profitably, and with as much fun as possible? If so, then I would love to invite you to check out BNB Tribe, linked in the description down below this video. It's our exclusive community for Airbnb hosts, investors, and co-hosts from all over the world, where I share some of my best trainings that go into detail on every single aspect of Airbnb hosting from A to Z. We've got advanced training playbooks that will help you to use more advanced strategies to take things to the next level and make more money and have more fun hosting, co-hosting, or investing on Airbnb. You're also going to get access to an incredible community and over $2,500 worth of deals, perks, discounts, bonuses that I've negotiated with other vendors in the short-term rental industry. So if you want access to all of that and a whole bunch more, check out the link in the description down below for BNB Tribe, and I would love to see you on the inside. this lady named Alicia. And Alicia was actually my very first ever actual coaching client for property management. And she ended up being a nurse. She wasn't even running a property management company. She was just a nurse that really wanted to run a property management company so that she could have more flexible hours, more time to spend with her family, and really just have more financial and kind of location and time independence and freedom. And so that was this kind of light bulb aha moment for me, where I didn't need to go and work with established companies and help them to systemize and things like that. I could help people that were wanting to get started with this business. And at the time, I thought, well, heck, there's probably only a handful of people that would even be interested in this kind of thing. But lo and behold, it was actually something that people were really, really interested in. And we got really great results with clients too. Like Alicia, within, I think about 6 or 8 weeks of working with me, had her first few clients on under management. And to this day, to my knowledge, she's still running that same business over in British Columbia and doing really well. She's still an active member in our community. She's still chiming in. She's still running that business really effectively. So that was really, really cool. And that was kind of a light bulb moment for me. From there, things started to snowball, where now suddenly I had this property management company, I had this education company, and I wanted to put more time into the education company because coaching has always kind of been this passion of mine. We started to get a lot of traction there, and I just enjoy it a lot. When the property management business was kind of up and running and relatively systemized, we didn't want to grow it too much further because it's always the goal to make it more of a lifestyle business. I just got a little bit bored of it. I really enjoyed the challenge of starting a new business, and I still do to this day. It's why I love coaching. It's why I love mentoring people, is because I love all the challenges that come along with doing something brand new for the first time. And so I get to kind of constantly relive that experience by coaching people like yourselves. And so I wanted to do that. So I decided to sell my share in the property management company to another person who ended up then partnering with Sam and continued to run the company. And then I focused more so on the education side of things. And my first kind of big, real blast off with the education side of things was when I got involved with a blog called Learn BNB, and the then owner of the blog, Simon, who is now a business partner of mine, a really great guy. He had this blog all about Airbnb and hosting. And when we promoted my educational training programs to that company, to their kind of email list, their subscriber base, their audience, it ended up doing really, really well. So that's when I decided to purchase a portion of that business, and I got into the online education space even deeper. We launched another program after that, teaching just hosts that wanted to host their own place how to succeed really well. And then did that for a few years, and that went really well, and really, really enjoyed it. And all that's still running to this day. And that's what then got me into investing. For a while, I had seen this opportunity to just buy the properties, right? It seemed like a pretty natural next step, but I didn't really know how to actually get started. I didn't have the expertise and the experience of how to buy real estate. It was a little bit of a daunting task to me. I didn't know the whole process, anything like that. So I learned that process and was able to get started actually investing in a property. And so I went into that first deal with an investing partner. That went quite well. The property did really well. It was cool because I knew what to look for and what to avoid with a short-term rental property. And so that went really, really well. And then naturally, I started just kind of adding that to my portfolio of things I could teach people, because once I had done it and once I had learned the ins and outs, I went with this investing partner and we launched a coaching program teaching people how to invest in short-term rental properties. And then I started taking over more of that on my own and took over the coaching side of it more just myself. So now I just run that coaching program. I bought another property for myself and kind of continued to expand my own investing and grow the portfolio that way. And that kind of brought me to relatively recently. So as of recently, in the last little while here, we launched something brand new that I'm actually really, really excited about. It's called BNB Tribe, because up until that point, everything that I had done had been kind of siloed, right? We worked with hosts and we worked with co-hosts, property managers, and we worked with investors, but they were all separate. They were all kind of siloed off into their own different things. And I thought to myself, well, hey, there's a whole bunch of value in putting a community together that's just everyone. It's the co-hosts, it's the hosts, it's the investors, it's the vacation homeowners, and we can all learn together. And I wanted to put together some kind of basic boot camp training. So we developed this program called BNB Boot Camp that's a part of BNB Tribe. Everyone that joins gets access to it and just goes through kind of Airbnb Crash Course 101. Everything you need to know to succeed. It talks about how to acquire properties through investing, how to acquire properties through co-hosting, how to acquire properties by converting existing space or existing properties you already have, how to set them up, how to launch them, how to price them, how to be profitable, how to manage everything, all the ins and outs. But then the other cool thing is that as I got more into this space over the years, I started to realize there's so many different elements to it. There's tax benefits that you can leverage. There's legal structuring you want to be aware of. There's AI that you can use now for things like guest communication or increasing your returns, making more money. There's other strategies like direct bookings that you can leverage. You can do email marketing to get leads. There's all kinds of different strategies you can deploy to, basically just do a better job of hosting, make more money, make it more profitable, make it a lot more fun, make it a lot easier, more hands-off. And so we put together these things called advanced training playbooks that would teach people all the ins and outs of all that kind of stuff as well. And then the really cool thing that I'm most excited about is this community of hosts and co-hosts and investors and vacation homeowners all working together and learning from one another. So that for me is personally one of the most exciting components of all of this, is that we can all work together, all collaborate, all learn from one another, all get to hang out together and just really build a community of people that are kind of unified by being in this short-term rental space and also being interested in and kind of excited about lifestyle independence, lifestyle freedom. What's really cool for me is that now with the educational company and the properties I own, I can travel. Like I didn't have to experience winter in Canada this year. I was able to go down to Texas and spend some time down there. I'm able to travel to Asia, to Europe, and just kind of really be where I want. I can be fully location independent, which for me is really, really awesome to be able to live life that way, especially while I'm young, when I get to spend time with family, with friends, and really have a really nice lifestyle that actually isn't just me working all the time. I get to enjoy it. So that's really fun for me. And I like being part of a community and building a community of people that are similar minded along that same vein. And also, I really do believe in building long-term wealth, building financial freedom, because that is such an important piece of all of this. So being a part of a community that's really interested in that and has crossover in loving Airbnb and short-term rentals, it's just been really, really cool for me. So all that stuff, by the way, is linked down in the description down below. But that's really been my journey so far. Nowadays, I have my own properties that I own, and I've got all the educational side of things. I've also written the book Airbnb for Dummies. I forgot to mention that. That was kind of along that path of getting in and working with Simon with Airbnb, and it's been really, really cool. I've learned so much over the last decade about business, about life, about lifestyle, about finances, about short-term rentals, about, everything. And it's just been really, really cool to be able to share that with all you guys here, whether it's on the YouTube channel or whether you are in BNB Tribe or whether you've worked with me in coaching. We've worked with over 1,000 different students all over the world now. Just been a really, really incredible experience. And I'm very grateful to have the opportunity to do this. So I hope that's been interesting to you. Maybe you don't even care about any of this, but I'm sure if you're at this point in the video, then you probably are interested to some level about the kind of journey that I've been on so far. So hopefully that was interesting for you. Hopefully it sparked something for you. And as always, if you have any questions, comments, thoughts, anything you want to know more about, just let me know in the comment section down below. If you did like this video, give it a thumbs up. Just hit the like button. It really helps me with growing this channel and getting these videos in front of more people and helping out more people like your awesome selves right here. If you want to stay up to date with this channel, we post 2 new videos every single week. So just hit the subscribe button there. You can turn on the notifications as well if you want to be alerted when we post new videos, so you can be the first ones to check those out. All that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you over in the next one.